Welcome. Welcome to episode 5 of From the Pure Land podcast. I'm Mel Pine. In the last episode, we added the Bell of Mindfulness as our theme song at the beginning to take us one step above absolute bare bones podcast. And with this episode 5, we're adding a microphone and audio editing software. It's the least I could do after my first podcasts reached 12 countries. I don't know how that happened, but somehow it goes out there in the podcast universe and people are listening. Today's podcast is an audio version of a blog post I wrote last week. Sometimes you write these things, and as you write them, they become a little more than you realized they were going to be when you started. And with this one, I ended up realizing that it really summed up a lot about my whole view of my Buddhist practice, that along with a devotional practice to Buddha Amitabha and the Pure Land, really sum up the totality of my practice. If you'd like to read it and other written posts, you can go to Melpine, MELPINE.substack, SUBSTACK.com. And you can read, and if you like, subscribe to my blog. You can also, on whatever podcast app you're using, subscribe to the podcast. Now, the nature of mind is beyond words. That's the title of this blog post. The nature of mind is beyond words and metaphors, concepts, and illustrations. Begins with a quotation in about a dozen lines or so. No words can describe it. No example can point to it. Samsara does not make it worse. Nirvana does not make it better. It has never been born. It has never ceased. It has never been liberated. It has never been deluded. It has never existed. It has never been non-existent. It has no limits at all. It does not fall into any category of any kind. That's from Buddhist master Dujam Rinpoche on the nature of mind. And I thank my Dharma friend and fellow blogger Chogpa for reminding me of that quotation in his September 25th blog post. So it raises in my mind a couple of obvious questions. If the nature of mind can't be described or pointed to, why do we Buddhists use so many words, metaphors, and concepts to point to it? And why bother? Why should we know the nature of our minds? So let's take the second part, the why, first. Buddhism teaches that our minds work hard from our very first year or two of development to convince us that we're unique individuals who stand apart from others and who must prioritize our needs and wants. That might be something healthy, a healthy stage for developing children to pass through as they mature. But our minds don't want us to mature beyond that. Our minds resist going from me to we, seeing how interconnected we are to all beings, because that would mean near extinction for them, near extinction for our minds. From our non-dual point of view, once we recognize that we swim constantly in the sea of oneness, we no longer need minds preaching to us about how special we are. We no longer need a grasping ego. That grasping ego is our Mara, the Buddhist demon who represents the cycle of birth, death, rebirth, and dissatisfaction. That's called samsara. And Mara, whose mission is to divert us from enlightenment. Like so much in Buddhism, we can recognize Mara as a trait within ourselves rather than an external demon, or both, internal and external. Either way, Mara is the voice telling us that the route to happiness is more money, a new job, a new car, a new romantic interest, a new flavor of ice cream, a gold medal, even though we know we'll soon want the next thing. He's that voice telling us our life will be more satisfying if we don't live in the same neighborhood as those people, and if we refuse to listen to that point of view, even though, again, we know we're going to remain dissatisfied with our lives no matter who or what we succeed in avoiding. The way out of the cycle of dissatisfaction is to stop the craving and aversion. But we can't simply order our minds to shut up our grasping ego. Instead, we must each get to know our mind and befriend it, or at least let it know we're paying attention. That's the why, so we'll turn to the how. No example can point to the nature of mind, but maybe one can help us understand why getting to know it is crucial. Imagine living in a culture of arranged marriages, and you begin living with a spouse you hardly know. You say good morning to each other, prepare and consume meals, have intercourse, say good night, but you long for something deeper, a deeper relationship. We can't get to know our partners simply by knowing what time they awaken and go to sleep, how they cook and eat meals, or even how they have sex. We won't know them until we feel we know their nature. Not just in words and data, but experientially. A sense of understanding that comes non-verbally over time. Maybe that's the love experienced in successful marriages. Now, this may be taking the analogy a bit too far, but I'll suggest that we want a successful marriage with our mind. Or if not a marriage, a successful relationship. We want to observe what it does without trying to restrain it or being controlled by it. Maybe we want to just appreciate it and have it appreciate us. Words like these that I'm writing, that I wrote last week and that I'm saying now, might help nudge us in the right direction. But it takes more than words to find the path to knowing our minds. That's where the chanting, rituals, and meditation taught in Vajrayana help, and especially Vajrayana's emphasis on the relationship with a teacher. For me, Lama Surya Das showed me the direction, and Yongey Mingyur Rinpoche, along with my daily practice in Sangha, took me the rest of the way to feeling as though I made friends with my mind. If you're interested in an experiential learning track with a teacher I recommend for Westerners, I say more about that in the blog post called How to Become Enlightened in This Lifetime. But the short story is that the Chergor Institute, which is the worldwide organization of Mingyur Rinpoche, has an excellent program that takes one step by step through the path all the way to knowing the nature of your mind. And you can learn more about it by going to tergar.org. That's TERGER.org. Also, my last podcast, called Finding Your Island of Refuge, was a way I had to briefly introduce you experientially through meditation to maybe just a glimpse of your nature of mind. So in closing, let me just share this prayer with you. It's Adam Tupton's translation of the Four Immeasurables. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings never be separated from joy that knows no suffering. May all beings abide in equanimity, free from bias and hatred.